Hi you guys, another Gina Choi creation. No, not really. She gave me this, and then I had this from before. Somebody else gave it to me, and I put them together. I hope it's up to her standards. Anyway, okay, she's a wonderful person. Okay, anyway, so the last video I told you that I was going to tell you how I came to meet my wonderful husband. So finally, remember when I was in England, how I thought that I had met my husband and I approached him and told him so, and he let me off gently? Well, guess what? I did it 2 more times. Can you believe it? No, 3. Oh my goodness. Actually, one time when I was in Colombia, I did it, and my leaders had to talk with me, and then my goodness, what a case I was. And it's amazing that God did give me one finally. Okay, so then when I was in Miami, I flew to Miami. Why did I fly to Miami? Because after all those years, 7 years, almost 7 years in Youth with a Mission, I had never really just been a person who goes to church. And I felt like God was telling me, oh, I see a cat in the background, a white cat. And anyway, I felt God was telling me that it was time for me to get to know what it was just to be a part of a regular church. So the only Christians I knew were the ones from before. Do you remember when I was in, I lived in Reno, Nevada, and I didn't know any Christians, and I was just such a mess, but I wanted to know Christians because finally I had asked Jesus into my heart. And so then I called up the people who I used to be, they only knew me as this disaster, and I called them up and I said, I'm a Christian now, and I want to, and I wish I was with you. And then they prayed, and the next day I met somebody who was with Youth with a Mission, and then I ended up, my whole life went on from there. Okay, anyway, so when I was thinking, where should I go? What should I do? I thought, let me just go to Miami. That's where I had originally known these people. They were the only people in the United States who I knew to be Christians. And so, guess what I did? I just, without really asking anybody, well, I told everybody I was leaving because I felt like I was supposed to. I just went and bought an airplane ticket, and I landed in Miami. And I realized I was still a narcissist, I think, because I didn't realize how I would it didn't even occur to me that I might be a bother. And so I, from the airport, called up these people that I knew, and I said, well, I'm here. I'm gonna live in Miami now. These are the ones that I had called from Reno, and they prayed for me, and I said, and you know what? This guy, this pastor, was so good. He arranged, it was a church filled with young people, and all these young people were more like a family. And there was even girls living together, you know, girls who have their own jobs and stuff, but they had decided that they were going to save rent by living together in a house, renting a house, and there was several of those. There were several boys' houses, and there was a few married couples, but hardly anybody. It was just mostly a church filled with young people. Anyway, he was so gracious. My goodness, how I've put people out in my life. He said, just wait there, and I'm gonna send somebody for you. And he called up these young guys, and also he talked to these girls that rented this house together, and they agreed that if I paid them the same amount of rent that they were paying, that I could sleep on a couch. It's like I could have the living room part. And so he arranged for them to pick me up. He arranged for me to have somewhere to live. My goodness, what good, they really were. These were the real thing, these people. So thank God for that. But anyway, Anyway, what happened next was I immediately went into my old routine. I immediately put my eyes on this one guy, and I thought he's the one, you know, and my heart was broken this time. I was positive. I pined over him every day, and I was sure that he was the one. And guess what? So here I was. We used to hang out together. We even went on, like, we had first met on a mission trip to Miami, to Mexico, and stuff like this a couple years before, or months before. And so I was sure that he was the one. And I would hang out with him all the time, and I would try to make him, I guess in my own little way, I flirted or whatever. And you know what? So here I was in the car one day, and I did it again. Oops, I did it again. Isn't that the Britney Spears song? And I said, you know, I really think that we were meant to be married, or something like that. I don't know what I said. And he said, honestly, I'm not attracted to you. Oh my God. The other two had let me down nice, but this devastated me. I didn't show him my tears, but I cried for days. And I just was devastated. But I didn't learn my lesson. Next, I put my eyes on this guy in our church who, to me, I always went for the ones that seemed to be so spiritual. I don't know what they were really like, but the one that was even almost legalistically spiritual, right? And so I had my eyes on him, and I was sure. And this time I even went a step further. I was so manipulating still. I became close friends with his family. I mean, I was always manipulating and finding myself in somehow that I was going to be around him. And guess what? Okay, well, what happened? This was a little bit more serious. What happened was I had thought that, all right, I did hear God, it turned out, but okay, when I was in Puerto Rico, I felt like God said, before I finish being 30, before I turn 31, I was going to know my husband, okay? And he honestly, I had heard God, but it didn't seem like it, because what happened was my 31st birthday was coming up. It was coming up, and I was sure that he must be the one, but he hadn't made any advances. So I called him, because I knew I was going to be devastated if it wasn't the case, because I was going to turn 31, and what would have happened? I didn't hear God, or what? So I called him up, and I said, once again, I really think that we're supposed to be married. And he said, I'm sorry, I really don't find that I don't think that same thing myself. I said, oh, okay, I hung up. I wept. I tell you, I wept for 1 straight week without stopping. I wept and I wept. I cried a bucket of tears or more, because the thing that devastated me was I thought that, you know, I thought maybe I didn't know how to hear God. And that's what I based my whole life on. You know, I would do everything because I only wanted to be in His perfect will. So finally, I came to the place where I just because all I ever wanted to be in my life was a wife and mother. So finally, I came to the place where, okay, God, even if I don't know how to hear you, even if I am never going to get married, I trust you. I know that you will make me a leader of an orphanage or something. It's like I totally surrendered and thought, okay, I'm never going to be married. And then, because I wanted so badly to be around kids, I went and I applied to be a nanny, and she accepted me. But all right, so my birthday was October 21st, okay? On October 24th, my friend it was her birthday, and she had a birthday party. And So we were all in the kitchen. You know how the girls are in the kitchen, the boys are in the living room or whatever? All the girls were in the kitchen. And everybody was saying, what about you? You need a boyfriend. Everybody was saying that to me. And you know what I had just gone through. So I wanted so badly, but I had kind of laid it down, right? But then somebody said, what about Jose? And I just kind of kept quiet, and they elected to send this one girl out to kind of talk to him. Manipulation! And so she went out and she said to him, you don't even know what's right under your nose. But you know what? He really was the one. And all of a sudden, he thought of me. He thought of me. And he had just gone through something where he had his eyes on this young, beautiful girl, good figure, and what? Huh? Okay, he had this, oh, my husband just told me something. He had his eyes on somebody, and that had all fallen through. And so he had come to a place of just surrender too. But when she said, what, you don't know what's under your nose, all of a sudden he thought of me. So then, my birthday had passed, right? And up till my birthday, I had been weeping a bucket of tears. And now it was 3 days later, and it's like God went on my behalf. Next thing I know, on a couple days after that, on actually the 31st, he called me up and he said, do you want to go out on a double date? And so we ended up going on a double date on November 5th. On November 6th, we went to the movies together and I met his mother. On November 7th, his mother told him I was the one, and that evening we knew we were going to get married. And 6 months later we were married. And you know what? I had heard God right, because we had had a lot of fun together, and my heart knew that he was the one, even if it was oblivious to me. So, dream big and go for it.